In 2011, I gave the closing keynote at the WorldFuture Society's WorldFuture 2011 event in Vancouver, British Columbia. It was an energized crowd of inspired thinkers from around the globe, and I felt quite honored to be delivering the closing keynote for this event. As I took the stage, my goal was to introduce the crowd to a series of 8 grand challenges, incentivized competitions designed to push humanity to another level. But as with many crowds, there were a number of formidable issues in the minds of the attendees, and before they would buy into these challenges, my ideas would need to be deemed worthy of their attention. At issue is our obsession with solving all of today's problems before we dare think about advancing humanity. How can we possibly justify advancing humanity when the money would be far better spent solving today's massive problems? Answering this objection first was critically important, so here's the way I presented it. If we only focus on solving today's problems, we become trapped in the past. Every solution leads to another set of problems, much like the whack-a-mole game at video arcades. As one problem gets pounded down, another pokes its ugly head out. The only real way out is to advance civilization. By advancing civilization, we change the nature of the problem we're dealing with, and that is exactly what the 8 grand challenges have been designed to do. I began by setting the stage with a series of questions. For this crowd, the questions were framed around the vast area of white space, what we don't know, compared to the tiny areas of certainty of what we do know. The 3 questions were as follows. Number 1, if we could live on any planet in the universe, where would we live? Asking where we want to live on Earth is a perfectly reasonable question, but as we all know, we know virtually nothing about other planets in the universe. To some, this is merely a question too absurd to fathom, but to others, it demonstrates the very real limits we place on our thinking. Number 2, if you had a choice of living at any time in the past or in the future, what would you choose? Turns out that we don't really know anything about the future, and when we look backwards, we only have a very crude understanding of the past. For all our claims to brilliance and ingenuity, we remain a very unenlightened species. Number 3, in a non-religious context, who is the world's most famous person? The answers I got from the audience to this question range from Leonardo da Vinci to Isaac Newton to Elon Musk to Thomas Edison to Gandhi to Oprah Winfrey. These were all good answers, but I then let everybody know that my assumption was that the world's most famous person has not been born yet. Using that assumption, the logical next question is, what is the accomplishment that will make that person so incredibly famous? Put another way, what are the big things that still need to be accomplished? Answering this question is exactly what led to my work on developing the 8 grand challenges. Here are a few examples from history that led up to this point. In the middle 1800s, one of the most popular sports in the US was billiards. Restaurants and saloons were quick to pick up on the game's popularity, using it to attract new customers, and soon after, the concept of a billiard parlor took hold, with many communities feeling left out if they didn't have one. One of the driving forces behind the sport was Michael Phelan, an Irish immigrant who wrote one of America's first books on the game, and he was influential in setting rules and standards of behavior for the game. He founded the Phelan and Colander Company, which developed new table and cushion designs and heavily promoted the sport. Later in 1884, his company merged with Brunswick. However, billiards was a sport that created a huge demand for ivory, the only known substance at the time for manufacturing billiard balls. By 1860, the demand for ivory had grown so intense that industry experts estimate over 100,000 elephants a year were being slaughtered to fill all the orders. To make matters worse, because of the imperfections in the ivory, they were only able to get around 8 billiard balls per elephant. Michael Phelan recognized the problem and in 1863 offered up a $10,000 Phelan and Colander Prize for the best ivory substitute for making billiard balls. 6 years later, in 1869, John Wesley Hyatt came forward with his invention of celluloid, the world's first practical synthetic plastic. Although he was never paid the prize money, he went on to found the Albany Billiard Ball Company, and the prize inspired a major milestone in the early days of the plastics industry. Throughout history, there are many examples of incentive prizes that produced amazing results. 1714, the Longitudinal Prize. British Parliament offered £20,000 to the first person to devise a method for determining longitude at sea to an accuracy of less than a half a degree. After 30 years of work, John Harrison develops a precision clock that could be used along with sun observations to satisfy the requirements in 1761 and is awarded the prize in 1773. 1795, Society for the Encouragement of Industry. Napoleon's Society for the Encouragement of Industry offers 12,000 francs for a method of food preservation usable by the French military. The prize is awarded in 1810 to Nicolas Appert, the inventor of food canning. Appert's method involved heat treatment of food in sealed champagne bottles. 1904, Deutsch Archdeacon Grand Prix in Aviation. French aviation enthusiast Ernest Archdeacon and Henry Deutsch put up 50,000 francs for the first airplane to fly 1 kilometer in a circular course. The prize is won by Henry Farman in 1908, giving French aviators a boost in their public relations battle with the Wright brothers. 1913, Daily Mail Transatlantic Prize. Britain's Daily Mail offers £10,000 for the first non-stop transatlantic airplane crossing. The prize is won in 1919 by British Captain John Alcott and Lieutenant Arthur Whitten Brown. They were flying a Vickers Vimy airplane for 16 hours from Newfoundland to Ireland. 1919, the Orteig Prize. New York hotel owner Raymond Orteig offers $25,000 to the first aviator to cross the Atlantic from New York to Paris or the shores of France or vice versa without a stop. The prize is won in 1927 by Missouri airmail pilot Charles Lindbergh, who completes the flight in a Ryan monoplane in 33 hours and 30 minutes. 1959, Feynman Prize. Physicist Richard Feynman puts up $1,000 each for 2 feats. The first is building a motor measuring no more than 1/64 of an inch on any side and producing written text at 1/25,000th scale. The first prize is won in 1960 by William McClellan, but it takes until 1985 for the second prize to be won by Stanford graduate student Thomas Newman, who used electron beam lithography to print the first page of A Tale of Two Cities on a page measuring 6.25 microns on a side. 1959 Kremer Prize. British industrialist Henry Kremer offers a £5,000 prize for human-powered flight, and by the time Paul McCready wins the prize in 1977, it is worth £50,000 or $95,000. McCready wins the prize by flying a figure 8 along a half-mile course with his mylar-skinned gossamer condor. Kremer immediately offers another prize of £100,000 to the first human-powered aircraft to cross the English Channel. Only 2 years later, McCready's Gossamer Albatross wins that prize as well. 1980, the Friedkin Prize. Edward Friedkin a computer scientist professor at Carnegie Mellon University, offers $100,000 for the first computer program to beat a reigning world chess champion. The prize is won by the inventors of IBM's Deep Blue chess machine in 1997 after its victory over Garry Kasparov. IBM boosted the jackpot for both sides, paying $700,000 to the Deep Blue team and $400,000 to Kasparov. These are but a few examples of many prize competitions used to shift public opinion. The Hamilton Project is an effort spearheaded by the Brookings Institute. It endorses the use of prizes to stimulate technological innovation. It states that technology prizes are an old idea whose time has come again. The project went on to state, prizes can also generate public excitement and enthusiasm for science and technology and encourage more young people to pursue careers in science and engineering or technology-based entrepreneurship. The most famous prizes in the world today are the Nobel Prizes. However, those are backward-looking prizes intended to reward some of the world's best and brightest for past accomplishments. Incentive prizes are different. They serve a vastly different purpose: to incentivize people for future accomplishments. Our need to compete is something that has been instilled in us at an early age. We compete with people physically in athletic competitions, politically in popularity competitions, and intellectually in academic competitions. But when it comes to science and math, the fundamental building blocks needed to advance civilization, we have very few finish lines. The 8 grand challenges have been framed around accomplishing some incredibly difficult feats, and at stake will be a combination of national pride, personal legacies, and laying claim to unprecedented achievements in science and industry. Here's a quick overview of the 8 grand challenges. Number 1, race to the core. The first team to build a probe that can make it all the way to the center of the Earth with a communication system capable of sending real-time sensory data to the surface. Number 2, viewing the past. Creating a technology capable of replaying an unrecorded event that happened no less than 20 years earlier in actual size in holographic form. Number 3, disassembling matter. First team to reduce a solid block of granite, starting from a solid 2 foot by 2 foot cube, to particles no larger than molecules in less than 10 seconds. Using less than 500 watts of power without causing an explosion or physical damage to objects more than 10 feet away. Number 4, the gravity challenge. Demonstrate gravitational control over an object weighing no less than 2,000 pounds by doubling the force of gravity to 4,000 pounds, reducing the force of gravity by 50% to 1,000 pounds, and creating negative gravity by lifting the object 1,000 feet and returning it back to the original position with no explosions and in less than 10 minutes. Number 5, controlling the weather. Demonstrate the ability to reduce the force of a hurricane by 50% over the course of a 2-day period, or alternatively, demonstrate the ability to steer the course of a hurricane by altering its direction of travel by 90 degrees. Each of these needs to be repeated on 3 separate hurricanes. Number 6, traveling at the speed of light. Create a scientific probe capable of traveling at the speed of light for a distance no less than the Earth to Saturn, with information sensors to capture stresses, impacts, and details along the way. Number 7, controlling human aging. Demonstrate anti-aging technology by having the first group of 20 people live past the age of 150. Number 8, exponentially grow human understanding. Devise both a process and a test for human ingenuity that enables people of average intelligence to enhance their innate ability tenfold and maintain this new level of intellectual prowess throughout the rest of their lives. Some competitions may not be completed in our lifetime, and each will be constructed around a framework that will allow it to evolve with our understanding of science. They are designed to stretch human thinking and to push the envelope. More than just a series of competitions, we view them as a turning point in world history. Our hope at this stage is that they will stir the imagination of people around the world and incite a global conversation. If we craft the right competition, we can effectively make the future happen quicker. As a result, future technology will be more likely to solve many of the everyday problems we face today. The cost of doing nothing is far greater than the cost of doing something. Each year, billions of dollars are used to clean up after natural disasters, and much of that cost is being driven by our own lack of knowledge. Without any forewarning, we leave people in harm's way. Without understanding the scope of possibilities, our thinking is flawed and our policies and planning are equally flawed. Humanity has a higher calling than that of being habitual victims. Nature causes far more casualties than any war. If we are willing to fight wars, we should be willing to fight wars against the cruelest monster of them all, our own planet. The future is not being created by the meek and the timid. The future is being created by those willing to make bold moves, take on impossible challenges, and put themselves at risk. As I have said many times, there is great value in the struggle, and human nature has shown us that we value only the things we have to struggle to achieve. The future hates complacency, so much so that it has built-in self-sabotaging mechanisms to continually hold our feet to the fire. If we are not moving forward, we are instead moving backwards. There is no middle ground. Humans are genetically hardwired to compete. From early childhood, we learn how to compete. We compete athletically in sports, academically in school, vocationally for our jobs, and socially for our friends. But we have very few grand challenges capable of moving humanity to a whole new level. For us to compete effectively, we need to know there is a finish line, and that's what I'm hoping to provide. In the end, these are intended to be competitions where all of humanity will end up the winner. Whether we are solving the problems of the world or simply directing the future of our own businesses, the fine art of controlling the future starts today, in the present.